In an era celebrated for its advancements and freedoms, why do so many of us feel profoundly disconnected? Have you ever felt that despite living in an age of freedom, information, and connection, something is deeply wrong? Do you feel like your mind is restless, distracted, surrounded by voices, opinions, and stimuli, yet somehow empty? This subtle discomfort is no coincidence. It's the symptom of a silent collapse, the disappearance of individual consciousness. You may have all the information in the world at your fingertips, but what does it mean if you have no one to ask the questions? What use are connections if they don't lead to understanding? When was the last time you sat in silence without reaching out to fill the quiet with external stimulation? In this silence, you might hear the whispers of your own soul. A truth too often forgotten. The purpose of life is not merely to exist, but to be conscious of our existence, to feel, to think, to choose. But in this intricate dance of existence, there's a disturbing dissonance. We are losing ourselves, surrendering our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions to external forces. Imagine a vast ocean. Each wave is unique, crashing onto the shore with its own rhythm and force, yet forming part of a greater whole. Now picture that same ocean reduced to a series of identical droplets, uniform, lifeless, and disconnected. This, paradoxically, is our current state. Despite having more access to information than any previous generation, we find ourselves drowning in a pool of the trivial and the superficial. Consider the omnipresence of notifications. These digital alerts have invaded our lives, fragmenting our attention and turning our brains into information sponges. Every buzz, every vibration is another pinprick to our mental well-being. The bombardment is relentless, and each ping is a tiny victory for technology over our autonomy. It's not just notifications, it's the flood of shallow opinions that masquerade as intellectual discourse. Social media platforms have become echo chambers where the loudest, not the wisest, are amplified. Truth is drowned out by the roar of the crowd, leaving us in a labyrinth of misinformation and half-baked opinions. We are also caught in a whirlwind of frantic rhythms. Life in the 21st century is fast, frenetic, and unforgiving. Deadlines loom, inboxes pile up, and calendars are packed to the brim. This perpetual motion leaves little space for reflection, for the kind of deep thinking that leads to clarity and understanding. Instead, we skim the surface of experiences, consuming without digesting, observing without absorbing. But the most insidious aspect of this silent collapse is that most of us are blissfully unaware. We go about our days on automatic pilot, reacting instead of choosing, conforming instead of expressing our individuality. We are sleepwalking through life, letting others dictate our pace and direction. In the face of this silent collapse, the solution may seem paradoxical: solitude. Not the forced solitude of self-imposed isolation, but the freedom of chosen solitude. Solitude is where the mind can reorganize itself, where thoughts are no longer scattered by external noise, where one can reconnect with the deeper aspects of their being. But solitude isn't just about physical isolation. It's a journey inward, a deliberate act of cutting through the noise to rediscover one's authentic self. Think of a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble to reveal the masterpiece within. Similarly, solitude allows us to chip away at the layers of external influences that obscure our inner vision. Yet society often demonizes solitude. It's seen as a punishment, a consequence of failure or rejection, rather than a chosen path to deeper understanding. The truth is that solitude is not a retreat from life, but a necessary engagement with oneself. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer famously said, "The solitude of man is not caused by the absence of other people, but by his being alone with himself." This profound statement underscores the essence of true solitude. It is not the physical absence of others, but the internal aloneness that arises when we disconnect from our authentic selves. Imagine a crowded room filled with individuals, each absorbed in their phones, eyes glazed over, oblivious to the presence of others. In that scenario, everyone is physically present, yet utterly alone. This is the loneliness of disconnection. On the other hand, imagine yourself sitting in a quiet room, sipping a cup of tea, lost in thought. You are alone, yet you are connected to yourself. This is the solitude of presence. To reclaim the ability to think is a radical act. It means disconnecting from the constant hum of distractions and tuning out the background noise of mass media and social pressures. In a world that values busyness as a badge of honor and productivity as a measure of self-worth, this act of disconnection can be challenging, even countercultural. However, it is essential for those who seek depth, meaning, and authenticity in an increasingly shallow world. One way to begin this process is to establish clear boundaries around your time and attention. This might mean setting aside specific times of the day for checking emails and notifications, or creating quiet spaces in your home where devices are not allowed. By reclaiming control over your time and attention, you create the space for deeper thinking and reflection. Another crucial aspect of reclaiming your ability to think is to cultivate inner stillness. This can be achieved through practices such as meditation, deep breathing exercises, or simply sitting in silence. Inner stillness acts as a fertile ground for ideas to germinate and for insights to emerge. It is in this space of quietude that the mind can break free from the shackles of distraction and explore its full potential. Furthermore, it's vital to actively seek out meaningful interactions. Engage in conversations that stimulate your mind, challenge your perspectives, and leave you feeling enriched rather than depleted. Nurture relationships with individuals who value depth over superficiality and who inspire you to think critically and independently. Reclaiming your ability to think also involves becoming a discerning consumer of information. In an era where information overload is the norm, it's essential to evaluate the sources you rely on and the content you consume. Seek out quality over quantity, depth over breadth, and truth over sensationalism. Be willing to question what you see and hear, to dig deeper into topics that genuinely interest you, and to resist the temptation to remain on the surface. This journey of reclaiming your ability to think is a personal one. It requires courage, patience, and a willingness to go against the grain. There will be moments when the pull of distractions is strong and the comfort of the crowd is tempting. Yet it is in those moments that you must hold firm to your resolve. Remind yourself of the richness, depth, and authenticity that await you on the other side of this struggle. As you navigate this path, remember that you are not alone. There are others who are also seeking to break free from the clutches of distraction and to rediscover the power of deep thinking. Connect with them, learn from them, and support each other on this transformative journey. So, how can we counteract this silent collapse and reclaim our cognitive autonomy? How can we ensure that our minds remain our own? One powerful antidote is to cultivate habits that nurture independent thought. This can include setting aside dedicated time for introspection and reflection, engaging in activities that stimulate creativity, and surrounding ourselves with individuals who value intellectual freedom. By embracing solitude, we can create the space for critical thinking to flourish. In solitude, the mind is freed from the pressures of conforming to external expectations and can explore ideas and perspectives that might otherwise be dismissed or ridiculed. The poet John Keats aptly said, "Great works are performed by those who in solitude a creative power." Great works are performed by those who in solitude, with disciplined will and soaring purpose, question, doubt, and think deeply. However, it's important to recognize that this path to reclaiming our minds is not always easy. It requires courage to go against the current, to swim upstream against the tide of mindless entertainment and uncritical acceptance. But it is a struggle worth having. For what is life without the ability to think for oneself, to question, to explore, and to create? In conclusion, the silent collapse of individual consciousness is a profound concern for anyone who values depth, meaning, and authenticity in life. While the forces that profit from our distraction and conformity continue to grow, there is hope. By understanding the nature of this collapse and taking proactive steps to nurture our cognitive autonomy, we can begin to reverse this troubling trend. Embrace solitude, cultivate inner stillness, be discerning consumers of information, and surround yourselves with those who value independent thought. Remember, it is in the quiet moments of solitude, when we dare to think differently and to go against the grain, that we reclaim our minds and pave the way for a deeper, richer, and more authentic existence.